Welcome back to Mind Trick Media. Today we have a special guest. Our guest is Ryan. Today we are going to do like a movie review. We're going to have like a series of this. We're starting with The Phantom Menace. Ryan is a first-time Star Wars watcher. He hasn't seen anything, right?
Correct. Other than Rogue One.
Okay.
Didn't really watch it, though. Sorry.
So, yeah, we're going to... He might have some questions. We might have some questions for him. We're going to talk about the movie, things we like, we don't like, maybe. Yeah.
So any like first initial thoughts from movies that you've seen before, movies that are good, bad, sci-fi, space themed?
I thought it was honestly the thought that I had going into it was that I am not going to care at all for this movie series. That's what I've had for the last 25 years of my life. Of just like it's kind of stupid, but watching it, I was actually like super intrigued. No matter how tired I was watching it, I tried.
Yeah, just for reference.
He likes cutting people off.
I know.
We've
talked about it before.
He paused. Anyway, so
yeah, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, we had a 12-and-a-half-hour shift before we watched it, and we also had an hour-and-a-half workout before we watched it. So, yeah, we went into this watching it super late on a long day. So,
and when they say like we, they mean them too. I did not watch it with them. So like, like they had some conversations, but we kind of tried to save it for the episode. So we kind of have like different views, different things we talked about. We've already like brought up a question that is kind of unanswerable, but so. I mean, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I'm going to let Ryan start because he started asking me questions while we were watching the movie, and I was like, save it for the podcast. So you had your first question, like, from off the bat of the movie.
Well, the first question is basically just why they decided to invade Naboo. And then while they were invading, I was kind of just wondering why they, like, why they had the queen in their hands, but they tried to keep her safe at the same time. Like, why wouldn't they just knock her out of the picture?
So there's a couple answers. The EU answer is that Palpatine wanted to start making moves in the Senate to A, get rid of the current chancellor, B, try to get certain planets and certain senators to be like more movement on issues and kind of be more aware that something's happening. And it is legitimately the start of the Clone Wars. As much as like it's not, it kind of starts from there because that's when they start moving pieces in the Senate. And so it's actually kind of weird. So the Neimoidians kind of like had like Palpatine or Sidious kind of like was kind of moving them, and they were willing to have the conversations about maybe putting a blockade on a certain planet. But honestly, they didn't really want to. They kind of just were like, we want more power, we want these trade routes, we want to be able to make X amount of money and do this and this and this. And Sidious kind of like fucked them over because he was like, all right, we're going to do this. And they're like, that didn't sound like a good idea. And he was like, but you're going to do it.
So,
and then proceeded to kill some of them.
I'm gonna put a side note in here with what you said because you said Palpatine and Sidious, and technically at this point in the saga, we don't know that it's the same person. He actually already knew that because he was like, "That's Palpatine, right?" When it just showed like Sidious and like his hood was up, and I was like,
memes.
"Well, yeah." And then he's also
Guy
seen Family Guy, so it's kind of like whatever. But yeah, he already basically knows who the bad guy is. So that kind of.
Yeah, he's not completely like Star Wars brain dead.
I feel like he's not going to be 100% with what's going to happen in the second and third movie, but he knows what happens in 4, 5, and 6, generally speaking. I mean, it basically goes through it in Family Guy. So, but also to answer your other question about the Queen and taking her out of the equation, they needed her alive to sign the treaty that they were...
Well, so they actually didn't care for her to be alive. Palpatine needed her alive because he... Which you then see later on, he like gets her to be like, they're not going to do anything for you unless you go onto the Senate floor. And she's kind of like, no, I'm going to go back to my people. He's like, no, but you should really go out there and say something first. And like, it's just, they're just he's playing chess, and everybody else hasn't set up their board yet. Yeah. It's kind of
everybody only knows how to play checkers at this point. Nobody's even attempted to learn chess.
They suck at checkers too. Like they have no king. Like they're. So another thing too is like originally they were just holding a blockade. There was no in and out of Naboo, and it's because Naboo is a very rich planet, and they have, I wouldn't say Senate control, but they have like a voice in the Senate.
Well, they have Palpatine, right?
Yeah, he was the
Right.
senator. And that's another thing too, where he kind of is playing himself over to where he also got a sympathy vote
Right.
for going to be chancellor.
Right.
And he's like, all right, my planet figured all this stuff out, and we kind of took down
The Federation.
the Federation for a minute. Like, we got him off our planet. We could do it for you too.
Right.
He's just slowly building up his trust
Right.
in the Senate.
What I thought was cool, because I said something to him about it when we were watching it, because I think he brought up like a mind trick kind of thing, and I was like, I think Palpatine actually did all of this just because he's that good of a senator.
Yeah,
that
because we
good
were
of a talker.
we were wondering why I was wondering why what's his name, Liam Neeson.
Qui-Gon?
Yeah, like why Qui-Gon couldn't tell that Palpatine was actually
A Sith Lord?
right?
It's Force abilities.
Okay.
He can literally disguise his Force sensitivity like completely. And like, this isn't necessarily like, I think this is like a kind of more of a fan theory that kind of like caught on too, is that we know for sure that the Jedi temple that we see on Coruscant was built atop an old Sith temple
Okay.
thousands of years before. Thousands of years. Because, like, Coruscant's Jedi temple has been there even back to Bane and Malgus, because Malgus storms the temple. But so, like, that's, like, the rumor. And so, like, there's always been the thing where the Jedi are kind of clouded as well, because he's using Sith, like, abilities to build and feed off of that Sith temple, which it's kind of like an up in the air thing. It's one of those fan theories that we kind of like almost roll with, because why not? It's like, it doesn't hurt the story, and it kind of gives you a background that seems logical. Mm-hmm. It gives you the depth of his Force abilities.
Okay. I mean, I guess that is kind of another question of him playing people. So I think he brought up something about how Sith Lords will like, or there was either one Sith Lord or something like that who took everyone's power for himself. So is that part of Palpatine playing everyone of like, what am I trying to say?
Well, so you're referring to when I talked about Bane. So Bane thought that if he wiped out the entire Sith Order, that he would be able to harness the dark side energy all to himself.
So it's kind of where you got to think of it like.
So is he playing the Senate to try and,
Well, he's playing everybody, buddy.
Yeah. So
right, so
let's
he's
say
trying to
there's
take everyone out for his own power in the end, technically?
kind of. So let's say the Force is a general, like a bubble.
Right.
Of everything. It's kind of like if you look at like atoms and molecules and carbon, all the way down to fucking unseeable levels. So let's say there's 100,000 of it in a bank. By the nature of the Force, 50,000 of it is, I said 100,000, right? Yeah, so 50,000 of it is dark side and 50,000 of it is light side.
Okay.
And so basically, it's weird because the way it kind of goes is the Jedi can use all 50,000 with the more. They come together to build 50,000. Whereas the Sith always knock each other down and kill each other, and whoever gets rule then loses his rule, and acolytes come together to kill each other. So they think that if one person controls 45,000 of it and their acolyte controls 5,000 of it, and then over their lifespan they kind of teeter it to the point where it gets to that 30,000 to the acolyte, 20,000 to
Like their apprentice.
the master, that they can overthrow their master and claim the rest of it.
Okay.
So that's kind of where, at least from what we know, he is using the ability of them being at a strong point and him being at his strongest point to kind of see what's going to tip the balance of the Force.
Well, also to talk about that, the Force is out of balance, because you have like the Sith where there's like 2 of them, right? And then there's 50,000 Jedi running around. Like, that's not balanced at all.
Right.
Like,
They can take most of the Sith Lords could take out most of the Jedi. Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
if they were to fight each other.
It's one of those things too, is that even back when they did fight, like This is part of the reason the Sith thought this, where was back even to like Revan. Revan had ideas about maybe knocking down the amount of Sith Lords, because like there would be like 8 to 10 like master Sith Lords, and then there would be like so many acolytes that were just like not working together and just pulling power away from them because somebody would turn, and then they became like, I wouldn't say a gray Jedi, but like in between. They're a dark side user, but they're not part of the Sith. And like it's just like basically Bane decided for the Sith that one of us is gonna control all of the power, and one day we will be strong enough and they will be not necessarily weak enough but blind enough that we will use the world to overthrow them.
Okay.
And so that's why, like, you, like, at least in EU, I don't know why I did that, but EU, like, you have this kind of like 50-50. There's hundreds of Siths and there's hundreds of Jedi, and then like all the Sith just get crumbled at once, and the Jedi don't know what to do because there's nothing to do. They just become like these like police officers in a way, and like over the next millennium they kind of like build up their numbers, but their power isn't necessarily going up with numbers. They're kind of just here.
Yeah, they're just
They're
there.
adding like volume instead of like actual powerful.
Yes.
Well, they also get away from, well, since the Sith weren't there, they get away from a lot of their teachings. The teachings aren't the same anymore. It doesn't get passed down the same way. They don't study the same things anymore.
And one thing about Star Wars that I think, like, everything is foreshadowing something that's like in our world.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of thought that too, of like, I mean, at least militaristically, like kind of like the fighting and the politics side of things is very like.
I don't want to get too far into it because like they become different conversations, but like, let's say like something happened and there's like these people that come along and then they start passing down teachings for generations and generations, and like some of the teachings aren't the same and all this stuff. What does that kind of sound like to you? And what do they?
Like,
what is
like? I can't think of the word. It's like, I don't know, just like legends of, or like I don't know.
I mean, there's not a correct answer, but this is kind of the way I look at it. Is that like the Force is kind of like a religion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that. Right.
And,
it's like teachings and that.
Yeah, and like
it's up to
slowly,
interpretation.
Like,
right.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great word, is interpretation. So we have not talked about the movie. Usually what happens, you guys know it.
We're still answering the first question, basically.
Yeah, I don't really have the second question. I don't think is really a question. I just thought it was funny. There was an active shooting happening and pilots had to be told to move away from said active shooting.
What?
I don't know. There was some attack, I think, and like they were just sitting in a corner, just
it was when they went to take off to leave Naboo to go to Coruscant, and they get sidetracked to go to Tatooine.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I don't know. We can cut that part out.
No, that's fine. One thing I will say too. In this movie, Padme is like 14 years old and Anakin's 9. We're gonna get that out of the way. It's crazy, but it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Even though in real life she is like
She was 17.
17 or 18.
We were making
he was
fun of it.
Legitimately like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess you already answered what the Force is in your opinion. I mean, I'm sure you can go on and on about that, and I don't.
do you want me to?
That's up to you.
Mean,
It's
you. You both can answer it if it's different. Do you think,
I think
from each other? I guess would be my question. Is
the
well, the thing about the Force is like it's so kind of broad that
Yeah,
you
I think
can't really
it's-
just like answer this question.
it's supposed to be that way anyway. So like
Right.
I feel like the philosophical teachings of the Jedi are religious, but I think the Force is kind of like how we view the world in a way where like obviously this is standing here, we're here. There's people that's been here before us, and there's billions of stars everywhere else, and it's like, okay, something created this bang that happens, but like we don't know who, when, what, where. I mean, we kind of know when. We think we know when.
Yeah.
But like,
Well, and they also just keep making new stuff that pushes stuff back, right? On the outside of the movie part. Then my next question was, how was Qui-Gon so self-aware or get to have the balls to go against the council?
So, there's a couple answers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes from, I would say, his master, Dooku.
And his master's first apprentice.
Yeah, Rail.
And, honestly, Dooku's master. So
Yeah.
if you don't know this...
I do not.
he doesn't know
Yeah,
this
he hasn't
yet.
made it to the second movie yet.
Well, that was
gotta-
honestly the hardest part, because I was asking Jordan questions, and Jordan was like, well, I either spoil some stuff or I don't spoil some stuff, but then
You don't get a full
I
answer.
don't get a full answer. And then it turned into like we had the movie paused for 30-40 minutes because Jordan is now like in his rambling stage of just like, I'm going to tell you the whole fucking thing, you know, and I can't.
So basically, I think a lot of it comes from his master, and then, like you said, his master's apprentice, Rail, his first apprentice that he had. They were very rebellious, and I told you before, like, it was a problem that Anakin was 9 years old when he came to the temple. Like, they like to raise the children in a specific way. They do specific things. They're not allowed to have attachments. Rail was brought to the Jedi Temple when he was 5. So he also...
Rail was part of the reasons why they're so strict.
Yeah, that's some of the reasons why they didn't want to bring Anakin in and this and that.
Obi-Wan was an older child, and he was brought in at 3.
Yeah.
And
Right.
at that time, so Rail would have been brought in 20 years, 30... No, way before that.
Yeah, way
Like,
before that.
40 years before, and 5 was, like, old then.
Yeah.
And it just slowly got worse and worse up until, obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of it came from seeing Rail and Qui-Gon kind of bonded a lot when Qui-Gon was a lot younger. And him having his like attachments and stuff that he was used to having and stuff, it kind of just gives you more of an open mind. And then Dooku, I don't know when Dooku was brought in, but I feel like Dooku was always one of them guys that just had like his open mind. Like it kind of probably was the way he was like raised, because he was one of few people that went and like still talked to his family like after the fact.
Kind
of,
so,
but he kept going back
on
to
an accident.
Yeah, but he kept going back to his home planet and stuff, and like they were very rich on their home planet, and they were like in charge of everything.
So, like, we obviously count Count Dooku. The reason he's called a count is because he became the Count of Sereno. He basically, his family was in a ruling line of like people. He was almost like monarchy in a way, and his dad was very anti-force using and stuff, and he thought they were like weird. So when he was fucking like months old, he basically left them on his doorstep and said, "Come get him." And so like, obviously, Dooku didn't know that. But then I would say in his teenage years, they go back to Sereno because they're throwing like a Jedi celebration, and basically the Jedi would go to planets and they would kind of like show off using like little force abilities or lightsaber techniques, and it was kind of like a parade.
Right.
And he accidentally runs into his sister. And he doesn't know why he knows her, but the Force is letting him know why he knows her.
Okay.
So it kind of falls through that.
So basically, Qui-Gon's like that because of the people that he was surrounded with when he was growing up. His master and then Rail, like, these people got Qui-Gon to a point where it was why he's so open-minded.
And we've already talked about Rail to them, so they have a background of Rail too.
The 2 episodes before this are the book covering a lot of this. So, yeah.
Watch them.
Okay.
No, I'm joking.
Well, I'm glad he didn't
rather read
watch.
the
I'm
book.
glad he didn't watch it because it would spoil the movies. It's kind of cool that he's getting into it now. He can get.
It spoils the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
The one we just watched?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So,
also
yeah.
it gives him
Well,
an.
if you would watch it.
Well, he doesn't even know. I mean, I guess it doesn't spoil the second one. He would just learn who Count Dooku is.
Are we going to talk about the end of the movie?
Yeah, we're going to.
Eventually.
Your question? Okay.
The movie we've only
Well,
talked about the very beginning.
I did. I mean, I just thought of a question in regards to that of, is like Yoda and the council scared that Obi-Wan is going to lead him down the wrong path, or just because of his age of Luke Skywalker's age is the biggest? Or wait, no. Anakin. There you go. Anakin's age is that honestly the biggest thing is the age, or are they worried that Obi-Wan is going to lead him down the wrong path?
Ready for 5 answers again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll
Go
start. I don't think it's Obi-Wan at all. They might think Obi-Wan's not ready because Obi-Wan still hasn't even passed his trials technically, but Darth Maul was technically his trial. Like I briefly told you that.
What is there to show off? You can use your lightsaber. Yeah.
A lot of it's
Slice
like
that dude in half.
I think a lot of it is his age, and then on top of that, Yoda tries to look into the future, which is funny that he tells everybody else not to do that, but then he does it. But
It's
at the
because
same time,
he knows that
well, he
the
doesn't know.
future isn't certain.
Right. He's very conflicted. He cannot see at
He
all.
looks at it to see if he can figure out answers to make educated decisions. Like, if you can see someone crashing on a speeder, maybe don't send anybody out on a speeder.
Well, he also is the Grandmaster. He can do whatever he wants. But,
That's true.
So he tries to see into the future, but he can't see that.
He can't see Anakin's
He's-
future at all. And I think it's mainly because of the prophecies and stuff like that. Because I do feel like they've gotten so far away from the prophecies that
Yoda's
only
blind?
Yoda and I think Mace Windu are the only two that really understands the Chosen One prophecy. I
In
feel
its
like
entirety.
yeah, in its
So-
entirety, which I did not tell him that because I don't want to tell him the entire prophecy yet until he watches the other movies.
Okay.
Because I don't that will
Don't listen to the book episode.
yeah.
It
Wait,
is the
just
entire
wait until we
prophecy.
finish the prequels.
But so another thing too is honestly part of it is that Mace Windu thought that when they brought Anakin in to be and said he was the chosen one, Mace Windu thought it was bullshit because Mace Windu at a time thought that he was the chosen one. He is insanely powerful. He's very young. I think he was the youngest master and council member up until they make Obi-Wan a master and council member. And then Anakin, when they make Anakin a council member, they literally broke the record, like bang, bang, bang. But Mace Windu had immediate resentment because
He was
part
jealous.
Part of it was his age.
Yeah.
And they've had bad experiences in the past. And then B, yeah, there was a jealousy aspect of why should we believe that he's a chosen one just based off of a Metachlorian count?
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, you got the Metachlorian count, the fact that he had no father, which is in the prophecy and stuff like that. Obviously, none of these guys know their parents and stuff like that, so I guess none of them really know that if they have a father or not.
and that's another thing they thought was scary too, is that part of the thing that makes Jedi kind of have the nature that they do is that they're supposed to hold no attachments, even though masters hold attachments to their apprentices, but they don't hold attachment to anything outside of the temple walls. And Anakin immediately does. Rael immediately did. Rael knew his family for 5 years.
Right.
He still dressed like his family. He still talked like his family. Anakin doesn't forget about his mother. He never will.
Well, yeah, he said he was going to come back and save her.
And
What?
and
Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's a thing for the future or something?
No, it's so, but he doesn't forget his mother, and then on top of that, he'll never forget that he was a slave, and that's another thing in Star Wars. Like, we're building this world of this fantasy. Why do we still have slavery? And that's where a lot of Star Wars like throws it into your face, the reality of your own world that you live in.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't remember the rest of the question.
It was kind of our opinions on why they didn't want to take Anakin.
Or if
Yeah,
we had a reason.
Or
Well,
if they didn't trust Obi-Wan.
Right, and then
So yeah, Obi-Wan wasn't the thing. They obviously were like, okay, dude, you're still an apprentice yourself. An apprentice can't take a Padawan.
that was about it. Right.
That lasts about 2 minutes.
Well, because he was knighted. You're talking about Anakin, right? Anakin was knighted.
Because he killed Darth Maul.
No, Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul.
Damn it.
In the Clone
I'll
Wars.
get it.
He gets knighted right before the Clone Wars when it breaks out and they have the first. Yeah, they do that.
Stale.
I guess it's Legends, but
Stale.
but they just basically take. I don't know if it's canon or not actually, but they take every single like Padawan then and just basically knight them all because they need people to lead the clone troopers. Which I was telling him, I'm like, it's crazy that you got Anakin at 19 and then his apprentice at 14 running around telling people what to do in the middle of a war.
They're generals.
Yeah, like it's nuts. Like
Yeah.
you got 14-year-olds running around telling clones what to do.
I mean, technically, they're like a year.
Well, yeah, I mean,
14-year-olds are leading an army of 1-year-olds.
well, he hasn't seen it yet. He doesn't know.
Yeah. All right, where are we at?
That was all I had.
You don't have any more questions?
All your questions?
I mean, again, most of them were kind of answered in a way. I don't remember.
All right, we'll just go through the rest of the movie then. We'll kind of like.
So I mean,
talk
I guess
about scenes. So,
I guess
like,
we kind of went through a lot of the main points in the movie. We're basically at the main point when they go back to Naboo, and then the Duel of Fate starts. I think
we didn't talk about pod racing at all.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the pod racing.
So number 1, Tatooine is disgusting. It's a boba. Yeah, I mean, how'd you feel about that? The whole pod race, is it like you like the idea that they kind of like, we need to do this, someone's invading my homeworld, let's watch a race.
I mean, I thought it was sort of how the real world is today, of you're kind of just betting on a lot of things to get what you need or what you want.
It's Tatooine sports betting for you right there.
Right.
What's his over under on that lap?
I don't know. I thought it was like, it was just racing, in my opinion. I didn't really think much about it at the time.
Kind of more of like, what do you feel about the stakes? And how did you feel about
His owner?
how do you feel about Qui-Gon like trying to get both of them freed and only being able to free Anakin?
I think it's just that his mom had to take one for the team. You know what I mean?
I mean, they did say that there's a tracker in them that's going to blow up if they try to run away.
That too, right. So they were, like, even if they were...
He could disable it.
Yeah, that is
Qui-Gon
true.
could definitely disable that. Definitely,
I mean, maybe,
if not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan knows how to do that kind of shit.
I mean, maybe trying to disable it will make it blow up too.
I thought it was cool that Qui-Gon believed in his intuition that this was the chosen one, and so he was like, yeah, if you want my ship, dude, you can have my ship. Like,
Qui-Gon's going to be his favorite character. I guarantee it.
What's crazy? Because the end of this movie. No, yeah, and that's part of the whole like thing about Qui-Gon, is that he was like, okay, we should never have been at this planet. The Force brought me to this planet. Okay, we should never have met this kid. The Force made me meet this kid. I should never have tested this kid, but I thought about testing him anyways because he just seemed weird. We tested the kid, and he's the highest midichlorian count ever.
right. That's a great
Why
leader,
did I test him
honestly.
for midichlorians? Like, there's so much that falls into line of, like, most people would never have done step 2.
And then be like, who's his father? And like, he has no father.
Yeah,
like all these questions.
And that's
Like he's
that's
so.
something about the prophecies that are
That's
so
another
interesting.
religion thing, too, of, like, his mom was like, I just had him. It's like...
Yeah, it
That's-
foreshadows.
okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Baby
there was...
Jesus.
I think you answered this when I asked you when we watched it, but Darth Maul had a red lightsaber when him and Qui-Gon fight, and he brought up like the bleeding of the diamond to make your lightsaber red when you become evil or you're a Sith Lord or whatever. And so I was wondering why Qui-Gon is so intelligent, but then he was like, I don't know who I just fought. Like, obviously he doesn't know who his name is, but he should have known that it was.
He's basically questioning why
So
they didn't think that he was a Sith Lord.
Right.
So, kind of like the scene with Ki-Adi-Mundi, which the Conehead guy, where he's like, the Sith have been extinct for a millennium,
Right.
which is what we've been arguing about in the news lately. But it's kind of one of those things that they did think they were extinct for a millennium, and they've seen red lightsabers before. It's not that the red lightsaber is exclusive to Sith. It's not that a lightsaber in general is exclusive to a Force user. It's just to be able to use the best warriors don't need. This is kind of cliche as fuck, but the best warriors don't need to carry a gun into battle. They can carry a sword and a shield if they're good enough.
Right.
Like in a weird way,
Right.
and like they choose the elegancy of a lightsaber. Like there's a scene in the third movie that is a really good scene with Obi-Wan that it kind of explains that. But so like you don't like there's been like gray Jedi before, and there's been like assassins, and there's people who've bought them off the black market, and there's people that buy them in like all kinds of other places. Like they're not like exclusive to anything, but
Okay.
like he had never seen someone who's had a red lightsaber, was using a lightsaber form, and just using the force in a way that he's never felt. And like that's the thing about these first three movies that's very interesting too, is that like they kind of talk about this cloud that's above their head of like this weight of this like Sith dark side
Presence,
just like
yeah.
weighing them down. And so like it's kind of interesting, like where immediately Qui-Gon kind of thinks like this is a Sith Lord, but he's like,
Well, I guess
no one's used this term.
yeah, because he goes to the council, and that's when they are like, hasn't been seen in a millennium.
Yeah.
Another thing is, why was it like 2-sided? His lightsaber.
Like a dual blade.
Yeah.
Um.
Does that have any meaning?
Just
I guess.
personal preference.
So you do not see it a lot in the Jedi, just because they haven't like that is 1,000,000% like a fighting blade.
Okay.
And so like if you look at like the lightsabers from the council members, they're all kind of like janky and junky and like just a silver little pipe that has a blade that comes out. There's
Right.
this like Obi-Wan's is like this little like handheld like torch looking thing.
Right.
Like they
So they just don't need it, basically.
Yeah, well,
unless you're going to be fighting.
Yeah, why would you need a dual-bladed fighting style lightsaber to fight people who are shooting with a blaster?
Well, that don't exist. Well, I mean, yeah, like the Sith don't exist at this point to them,
Right.
so they don't need something like that.
But
Also,
for example, like the temple guard at the temples, they use dual-bladed lightsabers, and that's because if like the only reason you really need temple guards is if people are gonna come in with lightsabers, and then also like there's a famous like female Jedi master who used a dual blade.
So also Darth Maul was obsessed with being the best at combat and the best at everything, that he wanted to choose a weapon that was harder to use as well, and he wanted to master that. So that's another reason why he
It also just kind of fits their forms too. He's a form 4 where they're jumping, acrobatic, diving and flipping, and like being able to flip and like jam your lightsaber down, and then once it comes through be able to jam the other part of the lightsaber. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with it that are like such an attacking blade, and he kind of knows that like he's never gonna get the Jedi off by themselves. So if he's gonna fight, he's gonna have to fight a crowd.
Okay.
And also, to go based off of the crystals that you asked about earlier, in the Darth Maul book, they describe it, and usually when you have more than one blade, you have more than one crystal, right? He actually has 4 crystals in his lightsaber. I don't remember if you remember this from the book. It's also not a normal kyber crystal either, because they were like not real ones, right? I'm pretty sure they talk about that in the
They
Darth
have
Maul
like
book.
lab grown.
Yeah, it's kind of like like legitimately he had like lab grown crystals in his lightsaber, so they weren't even real lightsaber or crystals anyways.
Does that
'Cause
make it more
technically-
powerful or something?
Probably not. It probably makes him weaker,
Well,
to
it's
be
also
honest.
because he's not a proper Sith Lord.
Yeah, I did
He's
go.
technically
I did go over that with him.
he's technically just an assassin of the Sith.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
Is there more about Darth Maul that they didn't say in this movie and that wouldn't spoil
No.
something in the future?
Nope. He's really dead. He's really dead.
I already told him he's not. But yeah, we get to see him in the Clone Wars, which is just after this, so he like survives this and stuff like that.
He's in
but
a
then,
lot of things. I
there-
mean, he knows he survives. You've seen Rogue One. Oh no, that's
no,
in
it's
Solo.
in Solo.
That's right. You have. Yeah, you don't even watch it. No. There was something else I was gonna say. Also, this is kind of a weird thing, but like, so his species, he's called a Zabrak.
Okay.
I would say just about every Zabrak that they show us in all of Star Wars uses dual blade lightsabers. I don't know why. It's just like
Is that
it's
like a fighting planet or something that has to like
they're
fight for-
slaves on their planet.
Oh, okay. Maybe you did tell me that.
I did tell you that.
Darth
yeah.
Maul was a slave.
That's
Okay.
why Palpatine ended up with Darth Maul. Was 'cause
Well, Darth
his-
Maul wasn't a slave. He was going to become a slave.
Right, he was a baby when his mother gave him away to Palpatine.
Okay.
Palpatine did not want him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Palpatine's
Palpatine
like,
didn't want him. She thought he was a Jedi,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a whole mess. But They also use weapons. We'll also see this in the Clone Wars because they try to get a new Darth Maul, kind of, in a way. You can watch it to find it out. But they use weapons that require, basically, it would almost be like a dual blade kind of thing. It's always these long, huge weapons. It's not like a sword where you have a handle. They're usually really big weapons.
Really big weapons?
Yeah. Kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it.
I
How
mean,
would
there's
you-
like artillery. That's a really big weapon. They have tanks in there. What's a really big weapon?
Like,
to you? Is
okay,
it-
there's-
They have, like,
still handheld
spears, and
weapons.
they
Okay.
have like bow staffs and like
okay.
double-ended spears, double-ended swords. Like it's normal like night like ground handheld weapons.
Okay.
Not like a
Yeah.
tank.
So we could jump now to basically the Duel of the Fates. I think we basically covered everything else within that time period. I know we jumped a lot, but I feel like we're at Duel of the Fates now.
Do you have a question to ask
Didn't
me?
talk about the Gungans.
The Gungans?
Yeah.
Is that
Jar
that's the
Jar.
underwater
Yeah.
people? Okay. What do you want to talk about? They were fucking disgusting. That's weird, dude. Why would they do that?
That is not the weirdest thing you're gonna see, but
I'm sure it's not.
You didn't like when he was eating the apples at the table? Lap.
Oh.
Like Yoshi.
I mean, yeah, it was.
Don't ever do that again.
I mean, you kept laughing whenever Jar Jar did anything. So
I mean, he
I-
was a klutz, but I think it's kind of funny that he became like a general. You know.
I'm a guy on a record. I like Jar Jar Binks. I don't think he ruins those movies. I don't think he
I don't think he
I'll take
ruined
that.
it. He definitely had his part, but like,
I think he ruins some Clone Wars episodes, but I think he's like kind of a good character to have. Because
he evolves a lot, and he plays like really important roles throughout.
not even
the
just
Clone
that.
Wars.
Like I feel like you need someone who, like, if there's no one that's kind of that jokey manner in the movie, I feel like it wouldn't be as good.
yeah,
Or,
it kind of like breaks the seriousness of it,
I mean, it's
and
the-
just like the right amount too. It's not like,
I mean, he's the
Dude,
comic relief.
People fucking hate him.
yeah,
They
I,
hate
I
him.
gave-
I
I
heard.
told
Oh
him
yeah,
that-
I did want to talk about like the bullying of the actual actors of these. Like, I don't understand. That just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, I told him about
To like
Jake, that-
receive death threats is like, they didn't write any of this shit. They didn't, you know.
He's a kid.
I mean,
Right, he's
I
10
told him
years
about
old.
the
Yeah,
10-year-old. I
bullied.
told him about Jar Jar's character. Like, these people were.
Criticized,
Yeah.
scrutinized. Yeah, dude, it's disgusting. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, is this the best movie ever? Were they the best actors ever? No,
Well, I also
not
did-
enough for
I-
you to tell a kid he should kill himself.
I mean, we also talked about it too. I'm like, you go try to act in a movie like this. This is not an easy movie to act when you don't
Yeah.
even see 90% of the stuff that's happening in the movie when you're acting. Like, as an
Yeah, it's
actor,
all CGI.
yeah, you don't even
Well,
see
not
any.
for them. They did a lot of shit on real sets.
Well,
Like, you can go
In
visit
their-
Tatooine. Like, it's a place.
yeah, but like the people and
Like,
the
it's not-
creatures and stuff.
It's not called Tatooine. I'm not a dumbass, but
I mean, you can go see Naboo, right?
I mean, yeah, parts of Naboo are in
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah.
Parts of I want to say Tatooine. They filmed in like, I'm gonna fuck this up. It
Yeah.
was like Sudan or Tanzania.
I don't
I
remember.
think it
but-
was in Africa.
Both sounds right.
But yeah, still, even trying to act when you, even like with Jar Jar, like you're looking
Yeah,
at the
you're-
guy and then he's got the thing on his head, like for Jar Jar.
I
it's
feel like you can kind of tell that in the movie too when they're talking to him, because like I feel like they set Jar Jar's head at where the actual actor was, and it looks like they're sort of looking above Jar Jar when they talk to him.
they're like looking at his forehead.
Yeah,
while you're talking.
it's like they're not making eye contact with Jar Jar. It's like if I was talking to you like this, like, "Hey, Tyler."
He's also tall as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I
yeah.
mean, dude, but that just goes back to the point. Like, all these actors get really criticized for these movies, and I'm like, you go act in a movie like this. It's not easy. And I'm like, these movies aren't supposed to be designed to be the best movies of all time either. They're not. They're fun.
and for
sci-fi.
and for 1999, like,
Right.
hell
I'm
of
like,
a job.
That's what people also don't understand. Like, these are movies that were made so long ago, and then I will argue that I think the Revenge of the Sith 2005 looks flawless compared to a lot of the stuff we
I
have
mean,
now.
we've kind of mentioned it before. I think movies that came out in the 2000s, like 2000 to 2009,
Yeah.
have better CGI than the
Mhm.
next 15 years of film. They
Yeah.
really do, and it's because
They've
I
gotten
mean, there's
too,
no
like,
shortcuts, there's no
yeah.
bullshit. Like they have to do the work,
Yeah.
and like movies took forever to make, basically all of the movies were like they shot for 3 months and they edited for 2 years, and it's like it's insane.
Yeah, and I don't know, but going back, he didn't know this when we were watching it, but I had to tell him the name of the fight is Duel of the Fates.
It's the name of the composed sheet music. Actually, John Williams is the one who named the fight in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the video of him composing when they made the Duel of the Fates, it's fantastic.
I have not.
I didn't.
Maybe we can do it later. I don't know.
Yeah. But
probably should have done that.
what did you think when Darth Maul ignited the second blade?
I mean, that's the thing too, is he doesn't have the historical to be like, okay, I watched 4, 5, 6, and then like that's one thing that people did like about these films is like
they
he
knew
did
it,
that,
right.
and then he pushed the other one, and like it was like a crazy event, but like
Yeah.
we grew up watching them like
Yeah.
that, so it wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
And I also knew that he had a dual blade.
Yeah, you're in a weird spot. You're just like you haven't
I
seen
have
Star
like
Wars
super
and-
small aspects of like, oh, Palpatine's the bad guy. It's like, how the fuck did you know that, Ryan? Well, I just watched it on Family.
No, I didn't
Guy.
say how did you know that. I knew you knew it, but at the same time, it just sucks that you
Right.
know, because it's like, like who's behind everything.
There's a lot of times where I would also ask him questions, and he'd be like, "Just wait, like 10 seconds. It's about to happen." He'd like pause the movie. He's like, "Just wait, just 5 more minutes, Ryan." And I'm like, "Okay."
What else? What else?
It's been
I mean-
40 something minutes since we started this.
No, we don't talk about time on here.
47 minutes.
So
No,
back. I mean, still the fight. How'd you feel about the choreography of the fight?
Which one?
The duel. What do you
Wait,
mean?
duel.
The Duel of the Fates with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan.
Oh,
How'd you feel about the fight? We're not asking about. We're
the choreography
We don't-
was
yeah.
sick.
I mean, how do you?
They were
visually
breakdancing and shit.
Visually watching it, how'd you feel about it?
I thought it was weird that it was kind of weird and funny at the same time of with the doors like shutting. I don't know why. Why did Qui-Gon decide to like meditate? Was
Okay,
that-
you jumped way.
Well,
far.
I'm
I thought you were gonna. I honestly thought you were gonna ask why did Qui-Gon go for the blade when he had a wide open shot to cut fucking Darth Maul down, but at the beginning of the fight, so Darth Maul goes to like slash over, and his whole entire left side's wide open, and Qui-Gon could have just killed him.
I also don't understand how they didn't defeat him when it was 2-on-1. I
Well,
understand
so
that he's
that-
very good at defending himself with a dual blade sword.
So I'm going to answer both questions. Part of it is because the Jedi aren't supposed to just go kill people. That's not what they do.
You're being attacked.
Well, that's part of flaws that they have.
Pay attention.
Yeah, come on, bud.
I was tired. Okay, I'm sorry.
But the Jedi don't do that, and you'll get if you watch the Clone Wars, you'll get real annoyed real quick with some of the stupid shit that they do. It's because they have their code, they stick to it, and some Jedi go against that. Like you'll see Anakin go against it a lot in the Clone Wars.
Okay, why even fight then? Like, what was
Because
their end goal of
They were
that?
trying to get the ships out of the hangar bay to where they could go and fight off the blockade.
They were stalling.
Okay,
They were 100% stalling. And then they were hoping if the blockade was hit that they could send Jedi reinforcements in. And
they
I
could
mean-
kill Darth Maul.
So basically,
they were going to try
so
to
when
probably capture him because if this is the thing that's
It's better to be captured
Palpatine-
because he has answers.
so.
Basically,
Here's a question I have for you before I say what I was going to say. Palpatine is obviously Sidious, and something he feared with his grand plans. He feared one Jedi. You know what Jedi it was? Do you have a guess? What Jedi Palpatine feared the most?
who's already a Jedi?
They were a Jedi.
you have seen them in the first movie, yes.
That could be. I mean, I would say Qui-Gon then. Yeah. Okay.
It's Qui-Gon. And the reason why is because he accepts that the order and the code are not
Perfect,
stone. They're
right.
not perfect. The Force can lead you to do other things. And he realized very quickly that if Qui-Gon gets a hold of Anakin and trains Anakin, a lot of the plans that he foresees that'll happen in the next couple of years are going to crumble. Because he knows that Qui-Gon wasn't just going to let Anakin wander and talk to people and do
Right.
it. Like, become as close to the Chancellor, or I guess he's not Chancellor yet, but as close to Palpatine as he was.
So basically, I want to answer the question that I made for you about why didn't Obi-Wan go for the strike, or Qui-Gon go for the strike? Well, one, he could have, but it's against the code, right? And Qui-Gon still does some stuff with the code, but also at the same time, he went for the lightsaber blade because Darth Maul went to slash down, and he would have killed Obi-Wan. So he actually saved Obi-Wan in that scene instead of taking the kill shot. So there's another thought behind that. And then Darth Maul, when he got to Naboo, he was obsessed with the layout because he figured that this fight was going to happen. He craved fighting, and he really wanted it to happen. So he knew the entire layout of the building. And like he said, Qui-Gon was the target. Right. Obi-Wan was not the target.
I haven't got to yet. This is where I was getting ready to start.
Well, I mean,
the entire goal of sending Maul in there was that Palpatine knew A, he's going to kill both of them, and or B, make sure you kill Qui-Gon, because and that's where the whole layout is such like a perfect thing, where he knew that if he could get Obi-Wan away, which is when he kicks him off the edge.
Right? I mean, he kicks him off the edge. He force pushes him back during the one scene. He tries to get Obi-Wan away from them as much as he can during that fight. And then obviously they go up to where the rays are, where they get separated. So he pushes them off to where they're up there, to where he can get them there to try to get everybody separated, which is what he ultimately ended up doing. He got them all.
My dumbass was just like, oh, he's just trying to fucking take them out one at a time, so he's just separating them.
I mean, yeah, because he also thought Qui-Gon would be the harder challenger than Obi-Wan, and clearly he was wrong, because Obi-Wan was the one that beat him. What he
didn't know is that Obi-Wan was top of his class in every single thing.
Well, literally,
especially in Jedi technique and fighting.
I haven't read the novelization, but I've seen some stuff from the novelization, obviously from social media. But he literally thought, he was like, "Oh, this is light work after this.
Child.
As soon as I get done with Qui-Gon, like, this is gonna be easy." And that's why Obi-Wan's able to defeat him the way he did when he jumped over him and cut him in half, was because he was just so arrogant in the moment that he's just like playing with him. He's like, "Ha, you know what I mean?" And then like he just. Well, right.
Yeah, he was doing a whole bunch of.
I mean, yeah, he was literally he was
doing a whole bunch of stuff that he didn't need to do.
Yeah.
In the fight.
Taunting.
Yeah. Like.
Well, that's because
the choreography.
Well, he was
of the fight was great.
I mean, he was so arrogant to the point that he's just like, this is fine, this is easy, and yeah, that's why Obi-Wan is able to do it. I mean, not saying Obi-Wan's not good enough, because I mean, you'll see, like, he can handle himself, but
that's part of the thing where it's like Palpatine gave him like, you make sure to. He kind of even tricked him in a way where Palpatine always is 2 moves ahead of everybody, where he was like, go after Qui-Gon first, because he wanted full strength against Qui-Gon, no matter what, even if Maul died, which he did not expect him to. He was very fucking upset that Maul died, but.
He's like, I just killed Plagueis and you died? What the hell, dude?
He doesn't know that.
Well, he's not going to know it, really, but... I mean, they say it, but, like, this is the time period that it happens. But, yeah, it's...
Maybe I missed that whole part. I don't remember. Did Palpatine actually say that to Darth Maul, to, like, make sure you go after Qui-Gon first?
No, it's not said.
Okay.
No. I mean, it might be
said. Because I was like, I feel like... I know, because he was saying that, too, where it's like, you only have a certain amount of time to get... Like
so much
everything, to get everything into a movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, a lot of Star Wars fans don't like that because it's not fucking just written out for you and it's not just given to you.
You got to go read the novelization to figure it out, or
I think
something.
That's the thing too. Is like, if the thing with Star Wars though is where they started 4, 5, 6 and then 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So you have events that happen that they don't explain too well. And a lot of people, or a lot of companies, will just be like, all right, we're done. We won't explain it. These movies are out. But Star Wars went, we should explain that better. And they went, okay, we're going to make 5 episodes about it. Or we're going to write a book about it. And, like, people also hate that answer. So I don't know what people want. Right. Do you want things to not be explained, or do you want them to be explained? I know it's more work, but then why'd you even care about it to begin with? Kind of my thing. But, I don't know. Like, I enjoy that, like... Don't get me wrong, it's a lot. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of watching. But, like, it's nice to be like, wow, why did that happen? Or why did it happen that way? Who's responsible for that?
Right.
And then, like, Star Wars is a has a pretty good track record of going, okay, this is why this happened. This is who did it, when it happened, and why they did it.
And that's what I was trying to tell you the other night. That's why I love Star Wars, because the movies in general, I think, are a relatively basic story in the end. Is it a great story? Yes. But it's a relatively basic story. But then when you take the rest of it, like the Clone Wars, you add all this to it, you have the EU and stuff like that, and you add everything to it together and make this huge, amazing story. There's always an answer somewhere. There's always something. There's new things that can come about. That's why I love Star Wars. And then we've talked about this before about how to watch it in what order. I like watching it in the release order, because like when we would watch it when we were younger, we started with 4, 5, and 6, and then you turn around and then like they make the Kenobi series and it's 18 years later and stuff like that, and Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor come back and this and that happens, like, or like in Rebels, when
18 years later.
Was it not 18 years later?
Oh, you meant our time. I thought you meant after Revenge of the Sith, 18 years later. I'm like, that's not what that is.
No, but
You mean 18 years
Yes.
of the actors aging.
and then like in Rebels, when Kanan talks about his master dying, and then we see it how many years later. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I love Star Wars, because it's like there's always an Easter egg. There's always something. They are starting to complete more stories now, and it's great. I love every aspect of it. It's one huge, beautiful story.
Well, I'll say to like his point of of like how like myself, who is not a fan, I'm not a fan, but like I haven't read everything or watched everything. To watch it with him was really helpful, because he could give insight to make me, like not sort of sway my opinion, but to kind of just put a little bit of backstory in it. And so I know the significance of certain events in the movies, to where if I was actually just watching it by myself, I would just be like,
Why is this happening?
right, why
I
is
feel
this
like
happening at all?
The first movie, most of the things that are like that are very Easter eggy, like they don't really matter. The second movie, I think, this is why people hate the second movie. There's so many things in it that are incomplete stories, in the way that they tell you this happens because of this character. We don't know who that character is.
Okay.
And like, but if you read about that character, you understand why that's so significant.
Or watch the Clone Wars. You get to see back like story for that.
Anything, and like I don't want to tell people like.
Well, even with the Clone Wars, didn't you say like all those episodes are like basically thrown around, where there's like this part is in season 1, episode 1, and then there's the second
they're
part
not
of
in
it is
order.
in season
they
5.
answer you in weird ways. You remember you forgot about this, we're going to talk about it. And it's like, oh, but like episode 2, I think, is going to be so much harder for you to watch. And it's not a top. Okay, so we're talking about the 6 movies. It's in the bottom half. And it's weird, because like I really like watching the second movie, because I think there's a lot of interesting like fighting scenes and throwing things around to happen. It's very visually pleasing.
Right. He did say that there was a lot more action in these 4, 5, and 6 than 1, 2, and 3. Well,
yeah.
He's talking about how that, like, yeah.
But yeah, so like him sitting in for the second movie is going to help you a lot if he does. But like that'll be like, I feel like that conversation is going to be even better for us to have, and then to explain to them. Like there's so many things that go down the line that I'm like, yeah, that scene seems terrible to our normal person. I kind of understand it, but like when you know the backstory,
right,
the significance of that scene means a lot. And like basically there's a part of the movie where they go to a planet, and basically everything that is happening, if you have no background, you have no clue what's going on. Not a clue. But if you do have the background, you're going to realize how, like, A, how cool that planet is, B, how cool the people who live on that planet are, and then, like, you understand who did this, why they did it, how it became this story, and then how it contributes to the whole story. So.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. This is why the movies and stuff, if you go look at Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, they're horribly critically acclaimed movies. And it's kind of because of how these movies came out. They came out in such a weird order, and like they also came out in time periods that these movies were like new and different from other stuff, and a lot of people judged the hell out of it because of that.
Right. There's a reason why I
People
didn't
don't
watch
like-
it.
People
Yeah.
don't like change either.
Yeah.
When they were like, okay, we're making a new Star Wars, and like, okay, and they're like, Luke's not in it. People are immediately like, this fucking sucks, and it's like,
Yeah, that's
Well-
true. It happened with Family Guy when Brian died. Everyone was like, this show is awful, you know? And then they brought his ass back.
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Hey, Disney did that. They did. Oh,
That's
never
another
mind.
conversation. We'll talk about that off camera because there's like, yeah, we'll talk about that off camera.
But so I actually brought a question, and we briefly talked about it beforehand. But I brought a question after
my
watching this
God,
movie
We're
too.
gonna be here for 72
Well, I think we
hours.
should at least discuss it to where people can
Is
see
he
it.
okay? Where is he at?
Oh, our producer just leaves.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of the movie, during the funeral, we get a little bit where Yoda and Mace Windu are talking, and Mace Windu's like, "There's no doubt that the mysterious warrior was a Sith Lord," and Yoda goes on to be like, "Always two there are," and well, that's what he says. He said, "Always two there are, no more, no less."
Always two there.
But I'm sitting here and I actually thought about this, and I was like, how do they know about the rule of two when the Sith have just been extinct for millennia?
I really do think it's word of mouth. I really think that's the answer. I think it's word of mouth. I think it's just one of those things that, like, I guarantee you it's written somewhere. They probably have I mean, this is something that they don't talk about either. The Jedi have a lot more. So, like, there's so many secrets to the Jedi, and when we get to episode 3, we can talk about this a lot more, because I don't want to spoil. I have the answers to X and Y. I don't want to give you Z. So,
Okay.
But we don't have like G in this scenario.
what? So basically, the Jedi have secret jails. They have secret libraries. They have secret tunnels. They have secret archives. They have secret that they don't tell people. And so we get a little bit of, like, every once in a while, like I said, like, one episode in the Clone Wars, they talk about this. One episode in Rebels. One episode, or one chapter of this book. One character in this thing. And, like, through all of those, we understand that, like, the Jedi have a lot of things that they, like, have collected over the millenniums, where, like, they have ancient Sith artifacts. They have Sith holocrons. They have dark side, like, entity weapons and relics. They have all these things that they just don't talk about, and where only specific people have access to them. Especially, like, basically, like, you need to be a master, you need to be a council member in some of them, where,
Right.
like, they just don't allow people to do specific things. And, like, this is where it comes in that, like, there's probably not a canon answer.
Right. And I mean, I just want to know how he knows this. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, this and that, but like at the same time, like we see in the Clone Wars, obviously spoilers for you and maybe some of you guys. He goes on a mission on his own. I won't get into super much detail, but he talks about Bane creating the rule of two. And I'm like, all right, from the first movie to the Clone Wars, I could see him finding a way to learn this information. But I just want to...
I feel like that'd be even harder.
Well, right, but at the same time, I'm just like, I want to know where he got the information from.
I really do think it's from the time of Bane and it being word of mouth brought down.
I mean, it was word of mouth then.
The word of mouth of there being, like, Sith Lords that, oh, we think a Sith did this, and they go and they cleaned up all their evidence, so there's nothing. But, like, even just this, like, it's one of those things, I guess.
Yeah, I know, and I just...
It's a good question, but it's
Right.
like I don't know if there actually is a
real
direct answer that people would be like, this is the canon answer, this is what it is.
Right.
I think there's answers, trust me. I think the answer I just gave you is probably the most likely.
I mean, yeah, and I mean...
I think it's word of mouth. I think there's potential of him finding artifacts. I also think there's potential of him finding things from before the Rule of Two that mention the idea of the Sith having something like a Rule of Two.
Right. And, yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts. You guys can give us your thoughts if you want on that. I really want to know what some of you guys either know or think. I don't know.
Yoda also almost coexisted with the Rule of Two like it being like a known thing.
Yeah, he was almost alive by that point.
So like it would have been like early
He was born
on in his
like
childhood where the people that he's around still fought Sith. So like
well, no, because he wasn't born until after the stuff with Bane, right?
yeah, but like there's species who live
Right,
if
but
there's tons of species that live for like 200-300 years.
right. I don't know.
And we honestly don't know how many. I mean, there could be a species of Yoda before Yoda.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. All in all, how did you feel about the movie?
What would you rate it out of 10? Or you can do 100 to make it like.
That makes it harder, I think.
I mean-
I think it makes it easier because instead of being like it's 8.2, you can do an 82.
That's the same thing.
I know, but like, it's easier to like judge numbers like that, I guess.
I mean, like, so basically, I want you to give us a rating for the movie, and then I also want you to give us a rating for how excited you are to.
Do you want me to like break down like the
I'm-
choreography?
No.
Is like 10 out of 10.
But what I meant too is like we can grade it as like a school grade. If you say 8.2, well that's an 82. Be like, all right, we could have just said 82 and it's an A.
Out of 100, I think I would give it like an 80 or an 80. Like 80 to 85 range is a good thing for me. I think it left
You intrigued.
Right, it left me intrigued enough to watch the second one. And the 15 is more of just like not story issues. It's more of just CGI.
Time period.
Like
actor,
writing
dialogue.
is kind of weird, in my opinion, on some things. And the dude who fucking shakes his head spits out shit.
The Gungans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, like, I think with when you start watching more Star Wars, if you finish this, if you start watching the shows and stuff like that, I do think your opinions will probably slightly change on some of the stuff too. Once you start getting more Star Wars information, and the fact that you're already giving it an 8 or 8.5, like a lot of people when they first watched this movie, they did not give it that. So
I mean,
Yeah,
right. I mean, again, to be fair, with insight, it changed it a little bit. So, I mean, if I were to watch it by myself, I mean, I could agree with some of those people of it kind of just being like, well, I don't know anything that's going on at all. So I would just.
It kind of does that too. Like we
Right.
may have started at like episode 4.
I kind of wanted to.
I think it would have definitely been like you would know exactly how people felt when 1 came out. Because that's all they had. They had
Right.
4, 5, 6, and they were like, "Okay, well, this is coming out." It's like, "Where's Luke in the trailer?" It's
Right.
like, Luke is not here.
But I do also
Where's
think
Darth
with you, I also do think with you watching more Star Wars, you will have better appreciations for certain things in the movies, especially the second one coming
you
up.
might fucking hate it. I mean,
I find that hard to believe, but I mean, you might.
I think in the movies I'll be fine. I think I agree with you guys. I know you've talked about how Disney's ruined it. Like, that'll probably definitely start ruining it, in my opinion. Like, for myself.
we're not going past 6.
Well, right. I'm just saying, like, with the shows and
No.
all that other stuff,
Well-
if I do watch that on my own time, it's like, it's going to be like, one, I already have your opinions on it, so
Can't wait for that.
obviously.
1 a.m. text. So,
But I mean, no, I'm just mean like almost like George Lucas of Star Wars, and then Disney has came out with good TV shows.
yeah, we shit on Disney, but like that
The Disney movies have been.
the
a
problem with
thing.
Disney the most is direction.
Yeah.
They
They
just
don't
where
know
they're going.
where their direction is like a paper airplane and like a shitty built one. Like it could nosedive, it could flip backwards, it could go right, left, center. They don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
And
I
that's an issue.
Yeah, it is an issue.
for a viewer, like,
Right.
that's just like any, like, if our boss had no vision or no way to do things, that bothers me a shit ton of just like, well, I'm following you. I want to know everything there is to know, whether it's Star Wars or work, and you have no vision. So how am I supposed to follow along and really enjoy this when
It's been a pretty rough year, I would say. This year has been pretty rough for Star
I
Wars
would say
fans.
after season 2 of Mando, it got rough. Because you had 7, 8, 9
Well,
come
I think,
out, and it was like, okay, we're never gonna get away from these, but they're shit. And then like they've slowly just.
I mean, I do think Kenobi came out. I really liked Kenobi. You liked
The
Kenobi.
biggest thing about Kenobi that people bitch about is they bitch that the timelines don't make sense, which we originally did, but it's been widely just been like, okay, they saw each other again, and then he was told never to go back. All right, cool, we cleaned that up with Vader and Obi-Wan. I will say, as much as she had good speaking roles, the scenes where she's running in the forest are terrible scenes. But we also got to remember, there's something terrible in every Star Wars project. I don't know what to tell people. Like, there are bad things. You can't be like, she ran from a guy in a forest and she's 9 and this is a grown adult.
And the whole show sucks because of
the
that.
whole show sucks though. Like,
no,
there's things that suck in Mando, but no one says Mando's terrible. Well, there's shit that sucks in the first and second season of Mando. And I'm not going to say I can name it off the top of my head, but I guarantee you I could find something. But
I mean, and then also, like, Ahsoka was rocky, but I do think there's good qualities of Ahsoka.
I have an opinion about that. But
We've already talked about it, but I
Not
mean,
on here.
Yeah, we have. We did briefly.
But we didn't have the conversation we had about Ahsoka. Sorry, you're here.
But I mean, like, even though, like, there's still
You
really
can
good.
tell me after.
There's no.
Oh no, I was just saying. I'm just like we're talking and just
Right.
like
It's it's fine.
I mean,
this guy.
there is really good qualities of Ahsoka, and I do think they can turn it around, like, drastically. We talked about that on one of the episodes.
my biggest issue with Ahsoka is that we went nowhere.
Right.
We went somewhere and then we were nowhere.
But at least we know we're getting more.
In 10 years.
It's like 2 years, but
Yeah, and it came out a year ago.
I do think, like, watching more Star Wars will make you. There is Star Wars that I feel like you're gonna like a lot. Like, I think there's filler in the Clone Wars. Like, we're not even talking about like that. Still, there's filler in the Clone Wars that kind of blows. But like, as a whole, the Clone Wars is fantastic, and it's like. Yeah, like he said, there's always something wrong with literally every single Star Wars project.
Yeah, and I think that's I've talked to people before where I'm like I feel like that's what makes Star Wars fans who are logical like really good fans of something, because if you ask about other franchises that people are super involved with, and like the easiest one to talk about is Marvel, just because we're big into Marvel where there was stuff wrong with the first 3 phases, and like you couldn't point that out to Marvel fans because they just had like a complete hissy fit over it. What do you mean you don't like this? Because I don't like this, this, and this. They're like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, we talk about Star Wars though, and I can sit here and be like, we love Star Wars so much that we're doing this, and I can go, that fucking sucked. That should not have been done that way. Even through the first 6, the original stuff, there's stuff in them that sucked. There's stuff that should have been done a different way. At least, like, visually and dialogue, where I'm like, that was a shitty... Even if it's like that. Because, like, obviously, like, the stories are good. The original stories are good. But, like, being able to admit that, like, that's wrong, I think is, like, a super good quality to have that people don't have for some reason. And, like, I kind of like for you, like... When you come in here, like, don't, like, I don't know if you care to hurt our feelings or anything or whatever like that. Come in here and tell us you hate it and tell me why. Because I would like to know, like, because, I mean, we're so in depth with it that we're like, as much as I can go, I hated that, I like this was awesome. Well, if someone didn't like what I thought was awesome, that's weird. Why? Yeah. And, like, a lot of people can't give you good answers.
I think I did that with him watching the movies where I was like, that seems absolutely stupid. Like, again, why were it's really dumb, but like, why were they just sitting there when there was a fucking battle going on? Like, why weren't they just doing something else where it's like,
who, the council? Like, who
no,
do you mean?
When they were
the pilots.
Yeah,
they had battle droids around them. They were like,
oh, you mean
like it was just like a weird thing to see of like. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't just be standing there. But again, maybe there was something that I just didn't catch.
I mean, there was a bunch of battle droids surrounding all of them that could just kill them, but they didn't have any weapons either. So, I mean, I see what you're saying, though. They're like, they're battle droids. You feel like you could do something against them. But, I mean, I do like that you brought that up, though, because it gives you a perspective, like, not Star Wars isn't perfect. And the fact that you even can point out flaws and you still give it an 8 or 8.5 out of 10. Like,
I'm not that kind of person who won't. Like, I will say if I don't like something.
Right, but the fact that you still give it an 8 or 8.5, like, there's better Star Wars to come that you haven't seen.
Well, all right.
Yeah, I think episode 2, and I also think this is good too because like I would really love like especially when the episode 2 Tactical Cones comes out because there's so many things I want to talk about that people like the reasons they hate these movies, and I want to explain it from a Star Wars story perspective, and I think people will not necessarily they're gonna like it better because they hate it already, but like explain why things were done certain ways, and like Star Wars like dialogue in 1, 2, and 3 was written very like it was like a real event happening, how real people feel, not how like a story character does things. So
You'll see that very heavily in the next one, and then even in Revenge of the Sith dialogues like that, to where it's like, yeah, it's almost like they're trying to make us feel like we're a part of the universe, and it doesn't really seem
and
to
there
play
are
out.
conversations that are like conversations that kind of should have been thoughts in someone's head, but how do you show that in a movie that doesn't they're not showing us what the inside of Anakin's brain looks like and like him thinking, but like
Yeah, they have to portray it somehow.
yeah, so they speak it. And
Right.
like, don't get me wrong, sometimes it comes off a little weird, but like there's a reason that it was done.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why the prequels get really bad hate, is because of that. That's a great way to put it. I'm glad you actually said that. That was a great way to put it. So.
Yeah, we need to. I can't wait for the next one because
Yeah.
there's things in that movie that like. I almost want to talk about one of them, but
Well,
there's like a specific scene I'm thinking of, and it's like notorious as like one of the worst lines in TV history and movie history, and I literally
I'll see if I can catch it for you.
is it the?
I have a shirt,
Yeah. Okay.
and I think
It's on a
I
shirt?
actually he got it on a shirt because it's supposed to be like a joke.
Oh,
but
you made the shirt?
no, it's a shirt you can buy.
It looked
and
like
it
he
has-
made the shirt. Though.
So they put the worst line in movie history, in your opinion, on a shirt
It's they say it's on a shirt like it's a joke.
I don't think it's
made by Star Wars.
No, I don't know where it was made
I think
from.
I got it at Hot Topic.
Okay.
I
All
do.
right, that makes a little more
I
sense.
do have insight to say on that line though when we get to that in the movie, but I don't think it comes off as the worst line
That
ever.
line sucks in a movie.
Is it just
It is-
awkward?
It's that's the no.
Or is it the
well,
thing? Is it just
listen.
the thing where it should be a thought?
It's awkward,
All
but
7 of what you just said.
Okay.
But at the
It's
same
awkward,
time, it
but-
means 50. It's
The
Anakin saying a line, and the line as itself, looking at it, is a terrible line in a movie. But when you look at the 15 meanings of that line, and you look at why he said that line in that situation and who he said it to, and what it means a lot more than what the face value of the line is. The face value of the line is shit.
George Lucas went based off of like almost philosophical things when he was trying to make this dialogue for this scene, and it comes out and you listen to it and you're like, what the hell was that? But like I actually really love I love the dialogue. I love it. It makes me want to laugh. It makes me feel for it. Like he's saying, like you learn the meanings behind it. It's almost like, yeah, it came off weird, and that's why these movies are critically horrific. But like in the actual story, in the actual events, like why they did it is what's so great about it. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I will argue the hell out of this shit when we get to it, but I love it, so I'm for it. But
Any
with that
more
being
final
said,
thoughts?
yeah. Anything else left for this movie?
Who's your favorite character?
Natalie Portman.
That's not a character.
I liked Qui-Gon. I liked his his intelligence, his intuition of, he's going to do what he thinks is right at the end of the day, like no matter what, even if it gets him killed, he's going to protect the kid. He was going to take care of it no matter what. He's going to take care of
It.
Him.
Anakin. Yeah, Anakin no matter what.
Oh God.
Can't even remember the chosen one's name.
Yeah, I kind of like the poor word choice here, but rebelness of him to just be like,
That's not a poor word choice for Star Wars, but
here's my balls and they're
He
on
meant
the table.
rebellious.
Yeah.
Like not
Yeah.
like.
no, I know it's funny.
He meant
Yeah.
more of like a state of mind over an action.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think all rules are set in stone. There are some, which he follows some, but
Right.
it's good to have that like just that gut feeling or whatever that what you're doing is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Least favorite character?
The Gungan.
Yes, on the outside, like without any deep interpretation, it's definitely that guy or thing, whatever it is.
You never see him again. So
Okay, good.
that's all. What?
No,
you
he's
just-
in the third movie. He's never mind. I can't say that. How about spoiled the hell out of something?
in the third movie.
Briefly, yes, for like a millisecond. I'll tell you in a second. I can't say it to him.
My least favorite character.
You'll see him for a millisecond. I can't say it right now because he's right there. But anyways, I mean, with that being said, anything else you want to add?
I don't even know who my least favorite character would be.
Oh, I thought we were.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was it.
Oh yeah, sure. We can leave it like that. That's fine.
All right.
You excited for the next movie?
I am, yes.
All right.
I'll probably watch it twice though, for sure.
I mean,
I'm gonna need it 10 times.
I've
so.
seen it
Okay,
100,000
that's fine.
times, so whatever.
All right.
All right, yeah. We're gonna make this into a series where he's gonna watch the movies, get on here and talk about it, cover the movie, cover his thoughts, answer questions, come up with questions,
Thoughts
I
are
guess.
covered.
But yeah, this has been My Trick Media. Thanks, guys.